All right, guys. So in the past, I have briefly discussed Andrew Yang and his ambitions to start a third party. Now, he is naming this third party the Freedom Party. And if you guys are not familiar with Andrew Yang, he ran for president in the Democrat primaries back during the last election cycle. Now, he didn't do all that well, but he did pretty well considering that he was a nobody before the Democrat primary. After that, he decided to run for mayor of New York City, in which he was leading the whole time up until the end, in which, he ended up sliding back and ultimately came in like third or fourth place or something like that. Didn't really do all that well. Okay, now he is trying to start a third party. That's his thing now. And one of the reasons why he's trying to start a third party is because he sees the current two-party system of America as toxic and dangerous. And one of the reasons why we're so divided as a society, only having the choice between two parties, in his opinion, that is what is driving our politics to be so polarized, right? Because you only have two options. And I tend to agree with that. I think that it's not hard to figure out that the Democrats and Republicans are basically kind of the same to a certain extent. Except the fact that I don't believe that the Republicans want to destroy the cultural fabric of America like the Democrats do. Okay. But to a certain extent, people feel like they don't really have a real option. If you don't like one party, then your other option is to work with another party that you also really don't like. There's a lot of liberals / progressives that don't really like Democrats, and there's a whole lot of conservatives or libertarians that don't like Republicans. And despite that, you still only have two choices. Because of that, these two parties always stay in power no matter what, because people simply don't have another option. And they know that, right? That's why they've rigged the system to the point where they're the only two options. That allows them to maintain power. And I think that you can make the argument that both of these parties don't really represent all of what America wants, considering how a lot of people are just simply independent, right? And this is part of the reason why I was hoping that when Trump was considering starting a third party, I was hoping that he would do it, right? When he was at odds with the Republican establishment, I was hoping that he would do it. And I was also hoping that at the same time, AOC and the progressives, they would start their own party, because they were at odds with the establishment in the Democrat Party. Right. So I was hoping that maybe Trump starts his own party, AOC and the progressives start their own party, and then we have a four-party system that I think would actually be pretty competitive. Right. I don't think that the Democrats and Republicans will be able to dominate in a system like that, considering how most of the Republican Party, at least as of right now, is pretty much in line with Trump. And there's a large amount of the Democrat Party that does have a progressive base that is aligned with the squad and AOC and whatnot. So I think that would have been competitive, and I would have had loved to see that happen. Now, Andrew Yang in the past has been accused of being in bed with white supremacy, right? Being a low-key white supremacist because he's an Asian man that likes to make jokes about Asian people, right? He likes to make fun of himself. So there's been numerous hit pieces out there about Andrew Yang and the fact that he did get some support from people on the right when he was running for president in the Democrat primaries, okay? So this has been a kind of a thing that is stuck with Andrew Yang, is that he's low-key a white supremacist, right? According to people on the left, okay? Now, Andrew Yang was actually doing an interview recently with leftist progressive YouTube host David Pakman, in which David Pakman asked Andrew Yang if he would be willing to welcome white supremacists into his party and to work with them. And his answer basically upset a lot of people. Take a look.
When I think about people who believe Donald Trump won the election, etc., right? You know the package of ideas that I'm talking about. One, are those people that would even conceivably say this forward party idea that Andrew Yang proposes in a coalition with the left makes sense? And number two, are these even people that you want as part of your coalition?
First, let me say, I want everyone as part of the coalition. If you can vote, we can disagree on a lot of things. It's all to the good. If we agree on the fact that this duopoly is not working. It's designed to turn us against each other and sink us. So that's one of the principles of the Ford Party is that, look, I can disagree with you on a lot of stuff, but if we can make common cause on this, then we can go back to disagreeing when the democracy is actually set up to succeed, when they're,
So let me ask, so even, to make it really specific, if people on the right say the Republican Party is too centrist, I'm an extreme white supremacist or something like that, but I think we need to get, we need single transferable vote or whatever and campaign. You still welcome that because you're on the same page on that one issue?
Yeah, if they're going to help us transition to a more effective democracy, I don't need to know what their stance is on things that I disagree with. People have a sense of where I'm coming from.
Okay.
But right now, I believe that there is an existential threat to the country as a result of the greatest design flaw in the history of the world. That is, and if you will help us resolve that design flaw, then we can have a discussion about anything else under the sun. At a time when the democracy actually will stand the test of time, when we transition to a multi-party system where you can't make any autocratic or authoritarian decisions, you have to somehow get 2 or 3 other parties on board.
Okay, all right, fair. So on the question of is everyone literally welcome, the answer is yes. That's fine. That's legitimate. So that's clear.
Yeah. So Andrew Yang is basically saying, look, if me and the so-called white supremacists agree on a certain issue, then yeah, they can be in the party, right? Yeah, I'm willing to work with them on that issue, and then we can go back to talking about stuff we disagree with. Now, you would think that this would be a non-controversial statement, but that's not how 2021 politics works, right? In this world, what happens is that you have to agree 100% with your side, or else you're basically the enemy, right? And this has basically been confirmed by Twitter, right? As they went after Andrew Yang for saying this, piggybacking off the idea that Andrew Yang, some type of Asian white supremacist, right? Just because he said that, right? So he got a lot of pushback because of that, right? And again, this just kind of proves his point, right? It proves his whole point, which is essentially that our system is too polarized, right? It's to the point where you literally cannot have any agreement with the other side, or else you're the enemy, right? And that's not how democracy is supposed to work, right? That's not how our system is supposed to work. How it's supposed to work is that we all agree on this one issue. Therefore, we're going to work to fix this issue that we agree with, and then we go and we discuss issues that we disagree with until we come to an agreement. The way it's not supposed to work is that, well, I might agree with you on this issue, but since you're in the other party, I can't work with you, right? Or since you're a so-called white supremacist, I can't work with you, right? And I've said this before, like when it comes to the whole school choice thing, and a lot of people on the left framing people who support school choices like white supremacists. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I think school choice is superior to our current public schooling system, and I would like to see a voucher system. And I don't care if so-called white supremacists agree with it. I'll be more than happy to side with them on that issue, right? On that one issue, okay? I have no issues with that whatsoever. Who cares? That doesn't mean that you support white supremacy. It literally just means that I support this one policy that me and the white supremacists happen to agree on, right? Like it's really that simple. But a lot of people can't see it that way. And it's funny because most of the people that the left-wing liberal media tries to frame as white supremacists are not white supremacists, okay? They're not white supremacists. However, Biden can run around here with somebody that was literally in that KKK, okay? And nobody ever calls him a white supremacist, even though he's been hanging out with people that are literally white supremacists. It's kind of crazy how that works. But we do have a history of groups coming together that don't necessarily agree with each other for the most part, but they come together to fight on a specific issue. And again, we've seen this before in politics, like even recently when it comes to the vaccine mandates, right? You see how BLM and people on the right who are against vaccine mandates came together to protest against the mandate, right? Because they agree on that issue, even though they're fundamentally two different groups, right? They're on opposite sides of the political spectrum. However, because they agree on that one issue, they came together to show that, hey, you know what? We're together on this. That is literally how things are supposed to work, right? That's how it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to be so polarized that you literally just cannot work with anybody else if they're not on your team or they're not in your party, right? It's supposed to be about the policies and the issues, not the team, okay? So I think that, Andrew Yang here makes a good point, and he's getting a lot of backlash for it. But again, the backlash kind of demonstrates the problem that he's laying out, right? And that we got into this point where this two-party system has caused us not to really care about the issues as much as we care about the affiliation, right? That's really kind of what it is. It's like gang banging politically, right? The Bloods versus the Crips, right? That's kind of what it is. But yeah, Yang got a ton of backlash for this. And I think he went on Twitter to try to kind of back off that statement. And I'm like, bro, why? What's the point? If you really believe that polarization is an issue in politics, then you should stick by your statement, right? You should come out here and say, yeah, I'm not a white supremacist, but if we happen to agree on a certain issue that doesn't have anything to do with white supremacy, then yeah, we just agree, right? And I'll be willing to work with those people to solve that one issue, right? And that's the thing about Yang that kind of rubs me the wrong way, is that anytime he gets any pushback, from the general public, he comes out here and he kind of capitulates to them. I'm like, you can't do that with the left. You can't do it with the left, right? Doesn't matter. They're still going to call you white supremacists anyway, so you might as well stick to your guns. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.